Hi, this is Buckwsr coming at you today with another lawnmower lawn tractor repair video. If you've ever come out to your lawn tractor ready to mow the lawn, you turn the key and nothing happens, that can be pretty frustrating. There's a lot going on with the electrical system on your tractor, from the key switch to the safety switches to your PTO switch to engage the blades, your starter solenoid, the wiring harness, and of course your 12-volt battery. What I want to do today is help you understand how your 3-position starter switch is wired, how it works, so that you can understand it, and also how to diagnose it to see if that might be the problem. As an example, today we're going to use this 2016 Craftsman R1000 lawn tractor. It's got a 3-position key switch, which I think is probably going to be pretty typical of a lot of tractors today. When you see a diagram like this, a wiring diagram, a schematic, you might be tempted to freak out, but I don't want you to do that because I want to explain it to you in the simplest of terms, which is important because that's how I understand things. Now, this is a wiring diagram, a schematic for the tractor that I just mentioned, the Craftsman R1000. I got this schematic, I copied and pasted it from online. I was at Sears Parts Direct. You put in your model number and it brings up all those diagrams with the parts of the tractor. This schematic is one of the diagrams. So I copied and pasted it into Microsoft Word and printed it out to show you. I've added some red and some green that is going to help us understand how the key switch controls the electrical functions of the tractor. And I think this is going to be a typical setup for a lot of different tractors, not just the Craftsman R1000. Here on the right side, and we'll try to zoom in on that, are three round diagrams. Focus, there we go. That show us the key switch in its 3 positions: off, run, and start. Those are your 3 key positions on the switch. Now, this key switch has 5 terminals, 5 wires that connect to the back of it, and those are labeled G, B, S, L, and M. I think the G is probably ground. That's battery negative. The B is probably battery positive. So terminals B and G are where our battery is connected to the switch. Terminal S will take voltage to our starting system. Terminal L will take voltage to our fuel solenoid. And terminal M will take battery negative or ground to our ignition system when we want to shut it down. It doesn't have to be too complicated, and let me walk you through these positions one at a time. Okay, so when we have our key in the off position, that's turned all the way to the left, counterclockwise, off, what happens? Well, ground, battery negative, or ground, at terminal G makes contact with terminal M, and terminal M takes ground, battery negative, to our magneto, essentially shutting down the ignition system and stopping the tractor from running. So let's look at it right here, and we'll trace it through. Okay, so battery negative or ground is coming into terminal G. When we have the switch in the first position, off, it makes contact with terminal M. So follow the green wire. It takes battery negative or ground down to our magneto. When the magneto, the electronic ignition module, is grounded, it stops running and cannot fire. It cannot send spark. So that is how the off function works. That's the off position of your key switch. All right, so let's take a look now at the second position, the middle position, run. In middle position, ground is no longer making contact with M, so the magneto is no longer grounded and it's poised, ready to fire. Also, what happens in the run position, battery positive, 12 volts from battery positive, comes into terminal B and it makes contact with terminal L, which I mentioned is your fuel solenoid. So let's go back to our bigger diagram and follow that. 12 volts from the battery comes to terminal B. When we're in the run position, makes contact with terminal L, we can follow the red wire. It will take 12 volts down to our fuel solenoid. Now your fuel solenoid is also known as your anti-backfire valve. It's located at the base of the carburetor. When 12 volts is applied to the fuel solenoid, that valve opens, allowing the flow of fuel to the main jet of the carburetor. That's essential for your tractor running. So that's the run position. Alright, so we come back here now to the third and final position on your 3-position switch. That's start. Now that's the spring-loaded position where you must turn the key all the way to the right, clockwise, and when you let go it springs back. So you're only in start position for the few seconds required to get the engine running. Well, what happens? We have 12 volts coming in, and it is making contact with both terminals L, your fuel solenoid, keep that valve open, and then also to S, which is your starting circuit. Now how this works is, let's go back here, 12 volts comes in, flows to your fuel solenoid, but also to S. So when that happens, 12 volts is sent through a series of safety switches and makes its way to your starter solenoid. Now the safety switches on this particular tractor include the brake pedal must be depressed. Your PTO switch to engage your cutting blades must be in the off position. And on this particular tractor, there's also a switch at the cutting deck. The deck chute, the grass deflector must be properly in place. So when all those 3 switches are in the right position and you turn the key switch to start, 12 volts flows through those switches into your starter solenoid. Power is supplied to your starter motor. It turns your engine and it fires to life. After you release the key switch from start, it just pops back into run. And as we already saw, that keeps 12 volts flowing to your fuel solenoid, keeping that open. Alright, so you have a great session on your tractor cutting a lawn, and when you're all done, what do? Well, you turn the key to the off position. No longer is 12 volts going to your fuel solenoid, so that valve closes, and ground is once again applied to your magneto, thereby shutting down your ignition system and stopping the tractor. So if you suspect that your key switch might be bad, what can you do? Well, you can test it now that you have this schematic and you understand how voltage is supposed to flow through those 5 terminals. You can get a multimeter or some kind of continuity tester, such as I have here, and you can, on the back of the key switch, put the switch in the off position and then touch your tester terminals to your tester leads to terminals G and M on the back of the switch. It'll make continuity if it's good, and you'll hear that beep. If you've got one of the continuity testers that actually beeps, some don't. You'll have to look at the display screen. Well, then put your key in position run, the middle position. Use your leads to touch terminals B and L, and again, you should hear the beep if you've got continuity between those contacts. Finally, you're going to put it in the start position. You might need an extra set of hands since it's spring-loaded to hold the key in the start position, but when you do, again with your leads, you should get continuity between terminals B and S and L. And as you touch your leads to those terminals, you should hear the beep or see that you're making continuity. And if so, your key switch is fine. If it's not, you'll have to replace it, which is never a real difficult thing. But this gives you a better understanding, at least I hope, of how the electrical components on your tractor work, and in particular, how the key switch operates to control the flow of electricity to your starting system and the connection of ground to your magneto when it's time to shut it down. Well, I hope that helps you understand your 3-position key switch so that when you come out to start your tractor to do what you came to do, it'll start up for you and you can get about your business. Thanks for watching.